Okay, I've got Firesrest versus Matticus on Lightshade, and yeah, this is Firesrest playing Zerg in the bottom left, and Matticus playing Protoss in the top right. So, yeah, I quite like Lightshade. Lightshade's pretty cool. We've got a Protoss and a Zerg playing on this occasion, and it's not dissimilar, this map, in some regards to Oxide, in as much as your men and your natural are remarkably easy to defend. You can park your army up in here. It is actually a little trickier to defend the third, whether you take this one, which obviously has this very open path of attack, but more importantly has this high ground position, where your opponent can come in and grab that high ground. If you take the base over here, then you know, it's a reasonable walk to defend this area from the entrance to your men, so two-pronged attacks can be quite effective. So a little bit trickier to secure three bases on this map than some others. Matticus going for a very standard opening, really, with the wall off on the low ground. I quite like the low ground wall off. Nothing wrong with that at all. What I'd like to see, this worker is going across the map, and that's kind of what you'd expect. He's going to go straight for the Nexus. That's pretty brave. I mean, playing against Zerg, I'd like to get the worker in and just check the timing of this hatch before I drop the Nexus. So if this worker comes a little bit further, you see the hatch is this much done. And what you're checking really is that the hatch hasn't been very, very late. If the hatch is very late, there's typically a reason for that. It means that your opponent's gone pull first and they've invested a lot of money into lings. So Matticus is going to come in now, but you know, with this wall off at the ready, even if he comes in now and sees that there's loads of lings coming across the map, he's in good shape, because you know, the Zealot is going to come out and block this area, and even if the lings come up and start nibbling, you can send a worker down, you can drop some extra buildings to maintain the wall until such times as you've got enough units to overcome. So looks to me like a nice opening for a Protoss player, a reasonably early expo. This is going to finish up not that far behind the Zerg hatchery. Speed on the way. Speed on the way for our Zerg player. Going to come in, does manage to pull the Zealot out of position, and generally what you want to do is keep the Zealot on hold so that it continues to block that area. If the Lynx can pull the Zealot out of position, yeah, he has got it on hold now. If the Lynx can pull the Zealot out of position, then you know, if it comes out after one or two Lynx, the rest of them can get in through the door and start going to work on probes or whatever, which you don't want happening. Zealots trade, as you can see, extremely well against Zerglings. The only time that they don't is if they get fully surrounded. So you know, with it parked in the wall like that, it's impossible to get a surround. So Roach Warren is going to be the follow-up here, and that's absolutely fine. I'd like to see the third coming down. You know, the Roach Warren is going up. You're building workers. You know, definitely get your third base down as sharp as you can, really, as a Zerg player, especially when you see this opening from your opponent. You know, this full wall off in the early Nexus, there isn't anything going to be coming at you very, very early. There isn't going to be like a sort of 4-gate rush or anything like that, you know. So you can feel pretty confident that you can drone up and start to push out that economic advantage. The Roach Warren, as I say, don't mind that at all. I'd like to see Firesrest just do a better job of droning, though. You know, these idle larvae, is really, in the early game, larvae should be what limits you as Zerg. In general, it's not having, you're waiting for the larvae to come out of the hatcheries to build things. So building a Roach, and you know, I'm not sure why 100%. Doesn't look like he's going for a big Roach push, so I'd be perfectly happy to just have some lings out on the map patrolling about the place, making sure you're going to see if anything comes at you. and just droning away rather than building 1 or 2 random roaches. But everything's still looking pretty good for both players. Matticus, with this little handful of units down at the front here, has left the door open, so the Ling is going to get in, is going to just wander about freely and have a look around, and that's an absolutely fantastic scout. He's going to annoy this worker, but actually gets a kill. So finally the workers pull and are going to see it off. I'd kind of preferred running around the edge of the base and just checking for, you know, you've seen that there's a robo, it's building something, maybe it's building a prism. I wouldn't have minded a quick look in the corner, just looking for maybe a Twilight Council, a Dark Shrine, anything like that that might catch you unawares. But to be fair, Firesrest did have an Overlord in that vicinity earlier, so I think he's feeling okay about his vision of the inside of his opponent's base. The same cannot really be said for Matticus. Hasn't had much opportunity to scout whatsoever, and I wouldn't mind him remedying that. So, you know, potentially he could build an observer and get that across, or even if he had a sentry, he could get some hallucinations in. This oversaturation is now that this base is done, needs to just fix that, needs to get the workers transferred down here. And he's doing all the right things. Look, this gateway explosion is going to time nicely as they finish. You know, if you transfer these workers down to here, that sort of spike in income that you're going to get is going to time out nicely with these gateways finishing up. I mean that you can really start to put some hurt on your opponent. The Lings are going to come in and have a look here. Only one Zealot, a bunch of Zealots over here are going to do just fine. The Lings could definitely pick off these Stalkers, especially if he stands under the Corrosive Bars. Now once the Immortals come down, the Immortals will mop this up. But yeah, oh, get out of there, Firesrest. Don't stand fight. These Immortals will absolutely smash you. So run, but run knowing that you've done had a pretty good exchange there. You know, exchanging Lings for Stalkers you'll happily do any day of the week, won't you? So yeah, Matticus making sure he doesn't overextend here, but you know, to be honest, he's pretty safe. There just aren't enough Lings, but of course he doesn't necessarily know that. That is enough Lings. Lings fair, they tread really well against Immortals, so if the Lings can get a surround on this weakened Immortal, there's a pretty good chance they can snipe it, and that'd be pretty pleasing. Yeah. So, Matticus, you know, I'd like to say Warp Prism coming out here. There looks like there's going to be an engagement. Now that the additional Zealots and Stalkers have come down though, needs to just focus on this Immortal. Just click on it. Just one click on that Immortal and yeah, good. So I don't mind this trade. Would have been better to keep the Ravagers alive, but I don't mind it at all. You know, he's mostly there. He's traded out cheap units for expensive ones. You know, keeping the Immortal count down is a really useful thing to do, and you'll happily trade out your Lings for those Immortals, because if you are going to be putting together a big Roach army, a big swell of Roaches, Immortals are the Protoss counter to Roaches. So if you can trade out the Immortals for the Lings, then the Roaches can come in and do all manner of hard work on the Zealots. So if we have a look at the army supplies though, it is Matticus with the substantial advantage. Now a lot of that is in production. Don't forget that units that are building count toward your supply, and with the Robo and sort of 6 gateways building, a lot of that supply is still in production. So the Lings get a good surround on the Stalkers and are doing a fine job. The Zealots, you know, there was a bit of separation between the Stalkers and the Zealots there. He could really do with getting another swell of Lings out. I noticed that there are idle larvae, so he does need to sort that out. Might even need to pull some workers to survive this. Good transfuse goes down in the spine crawler, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to save this base. I don't know. You might want to keep these Lings out. I don't think you can save the base. What is in production? There's 30 Lings coming now. I don't think it's going to be fast enough. You know, the big problem you've got here is the Zealots trade so well against the Lings, and he didn't really have very many queens. There was only 1 queen per base. So while the Lings are going to do great against the Stalkers, and they do quite well even against the Immortal, they don't trade particularly well against these Zealots. So I don't know if Matticus is going to continue pushing here. I think he probably could. It's only Lings in production, and that's a bit painful. could do with some Ravagers to be able to hold this off, but I just don't think he's got the production really, Firesrest at this time. So could he have held that attack? Ooh, okay. Could he have held that attack if we just wind it back a little bit? Let's have a look. So at this point, you know, if we look at the army that's coming across the map here, there's one Immortal, there's 10 Stalkers, 5 Zealots. There are 30 Lings on the map at present. Yeah, I think, you know, the Crawlers are good, but the Queens needed to come forward and join the fray as well. This was a good moment, and he didn't actually kill any of the Stalkers. I don't think one, sorry, does go down, but actually the Zealots just arrive in time to finish that up. And look, you know, these Stalkers so low on health, and you can just, there's 3 Stalkers there that so easily could have went down in that engagement and didn't. Had they gone down, this maybe goes slightly differently. If we look at the upgrades, the Stalkers are 1-1, the Lings are 0-0 though. It's missile upgrades that Firesrest had, despite mostly building Lings in his army. So yeah, at this point, can he survive? You know, he potentially could, but he needs more Crawlers, he needs more Queens, and he could have done with the Ravagers as well. Anyway, as it stands, it is Matticus that takes the first game, and it's GG.